There are decisions in life that should be carefully considered before making them. For example, a career. If you choose something you don't like, something you find difficult, or something with limited employment prospects, it's something you'll have to live with for the rest of your life. The same goes for getting married or having children. There are some decisions that you can reverse relatively easily if you do it in time. There are others that, when you backtrack, have serious consequences, and others that are simply irreversible. You might be wondering, what does this have to do with taking a Bible study course with Jehovah's Witnesses? At first glance, taking a Bible study course may seem like a harmless thing to do, but if you stick with it until the end, you'll understand why it isn't at all. So, are you ready to open your mind and hear different points of view? Great, because this is With Common Sense. Let's list the things you need to know before studying the Bible with Jehovah's Witnesses. 1. To begin with, it is important that you understand that the courses offered by Jehovah's Witnesses are not actually Bible courses, but indoctrination courses. A true biblical course would have to be exegetical. What on earth does that mean? Exegetical or exegesis comes from the Greek exegeomai and is divided into two roots, ekex, which means outside, and egeomai, which means to guide, conduct, or explain. So etymologically, exegesis means to draw out by guiding outwards. And we can define it as extracting or taking out what the text originally wanted to say. The opposite would be eisegesis, which means to guide from the outside in. And we can define it as projecting into the text what one already believes or assumes. Therefore, an eisegetical course is practically a doctrinal or indoctrination course. A course in biblical exegesis covers 1. Linguistic analysis. This is the study of original words in their original languages, which are Hebrew, Aramaic, and Biblical, or Koine Greek. It also encompasses the examination of the text's grammar and syntax. 2. Historical cultural context. This refers to the historical situation of the author and the recipients, as well as studying their customs, laws, beliefs, and social conditions of the time. 3. Literary context. This involves studying the literary genre of each book or passage. These can be poetry, narrative, prophecy, parable, etc. You should study the passage's relationship to the verses before and after it, as well as the author's purpose within the entire book. 4. Theological analysis. What image of God does it present? What values, mandates, or teachings does it communicate? How does it relate to other parts of Scripture? And finally, 5. If it is an advanced course, it can cover textual criticism, which is a comparison between different ancient manuscripts to detect variants of the text. Now review your Jehovah's Witness Bible course manual and ask yourself if it includes an analysis of the biblical text like the one we just mentioned. If not, what you're taking is an indoctrination course. And this brings us to the second point. 2. The goal of the course is not to teach you the Bible, but to become a Jehovah's Witness through baptism. This may surprise you because they often say the opposite, that it's a harmless Bible course, but the goal isn't to make you a Jehovah's Witness. However, that's only half true. Of course, they can't force you to become a witness, but that doesn't mean that's not their goal. If you don't believe me, let's look it up directly in one of their publications, which you can search for yourself and find in the JW Online Library. In their Christian Life and Ministry Meeting Activity Guide of December 2018, page 8, it says the following: Bible students need to understand that Christian baptism is necessary to gain salvation. Remind Bible students that the purpose of their study is to help them come to know Jehovah and please Him. Strengthen and encourage them before and after their baptism. And of course, it doesn't matter to them if you were previously baptized in another Christian church, because only the baptism you receive within their organization is valid. Now you might be thinking, okay, but there's nothing wrong with studying the witness doctrines either. They teach us not to kill, not to steal, to love our neighbor, etc. Is it really that harmless to study Jehovah's Witness doctrines? That brings us directly to point 3. 3. Conditional love. Once baptized, changing your mind has consequences. When you start attending meetings at the Kingdom Hall of Jehovah's Witnesses, You'll most likely be greeted with great warmth and seemingly great interest by the congregation members. This will give you the impression that they have great love for one another. However, it's also likely that you'll soon realize that there may be divisions among them that they hide quite well, which, it must be said, is normal in any human group. Now, this apparent love with which they welcome you could have an expiration date. What do I mean? If, after a sufficiently long time, the person leading your course feels that you are not making progress, they will likely stop leading it, since the students are expected to attend their meetings regularly, then accompany them to the sermons, and eventually be baptized. Now, what would happen if you were baptized and, sometime later, for some reason, changed your mind and wanted to leave, for example, to another religion or belief? We all have the right to change our minds, don't you think? In fact, the person leading the course will tell you that you can leave whenever you want, which is another half-truth. What am I talking about this time? I mean, once you're baptized, if you leave the organization because you change your mind and join another religion or belief of your choice, you become an apostate to them. An apostate is the worst of the worst for a Jehovah's Witness. They'd stop socializing with you and stop speaking to you. Are you seeing what I mean by conditional love? 4. Hundreds of Jehovah's Witnesses have died from refusing a blood transfusion, including children whose parents let them die by refusing a transfusion. If you want to verify what I'm telling you, you can look it up in the JW Online Library in the May 22, 1994 issue of Awake magazine, pages 315, where a series of cases of children who died for refusing to accept blood transfusions are presented and are exalted as examples of faith and obedience, that is, martyrs. You can also find this doctrine in Enjoy Life Forever, Lesson 39, which serves as the study manual for those taking the course. It says that this is a matter of conscience, but to what extent is that really true? Well, again, this is a half-truth. Because yes, no one can stop you from receiving a blood transfusion, but if you are baptized and accept a blood transfusion, you will have to appear before a committee of 3 elders who will decide whether they consider you repentant or not. If they decide you are repentant, you receive a censure. If they decide you are not repentant, they remove you from the congregation. This means they stop socializing with you. They will only contact you if you go to the Kingdom Hall with a brief greeting or to invite you to the meeting. 5. If you decide to advance as a Jehovah's Witness, please take care of your children. The witnesses you study with will probably deny it, but among Jehovah's Witnesses, as in any religion, child abuse does occur. You can watch a video explaining the topic in detail at the link above. Let me briefly explain the content of the video. The Australian government formed a commission to investigate how child abuse is handled by all religions in Australia, including, of course, Jehovah's Witnesses. At the end of the investigation, they issued a report on how more than 1,000 such cases that occurred in Jehovah's Witness congregations in Australia were handled. The video is based on the findings of that report, which is also public, and the video description includes a download link. I recommend that you watch the video, because it will help you understand the issue much better. What I need to tell you for the purposes of this video is that the commission formed by the Australian government concluded that the organizational structure of Jehovah's Witnesses does not adequately respond to allegations of child abuse and does not protect children within their organization. And don't think it's easy to spot an abuser. It doesn't show on their faces. On the contrary, they often appear to be kind and loving people. Many of the abuses that have been committed are perpetrated by ministerial servants and elders. 6. If you join Jehovah's Witnesses as a family, keep in mind what we have discussed about those who have been removed or expelled, because it also applies to the family. If one of your children is baptized, grows up, becomes independent, and changes his or her mind and converts to another religion or belief, he or she becomes an apostate and will be removed from the organization. You should not speak to him or her. The same applies in reverse if one of the parents changes his or her mind. If the relative is removed from the congregation for a reason other than apostasy, you may call them to invite them to the meeting or greet them if they show up at your hall, but up to that point, socializing as such is prohibited. And what happens if you ignore the rules regarding treatment of those who have been removed from the congregation? You risk being removed. 7. You will stop celebrating birthdays, Christmas, Mother's Day, Day of the Dead, Halloween, national holidays, etc. If you are baptized and ignore these rules, you also risk being removed from the organization. 8. Your children will be discouraged from going to university. If you're already struggling to get your children to want to study, you'll definitely struggle even more. It is true that young witnesses are not completely prohibited from attending university. However, they are constantly discouraged from doing so through speeches, videos, and publications, using the pretext that it is pointless because the end of the system is imminent, and that studying can weaken their faith, make them materialistic, and expose them to immorality or drugs. They are told that it is better to dedicate their lives to being practically free labor for the Watchtower. Oh no, sorry. They say that they encourage them to serve Jehovah by preaching full-time, helping in the construction of halls and branches, serving in beetle, etc. Keep in mind that young people are highly susceptible to influence and can easily become fanatical. If, despite all this, your children decide to go to university, don't be surprised if they receive some questioning from any member of the congregation or from the ministerial servants or elders themselves, because after all, it's not well regarded for young witnesses to go to university. We could talk about more things you should know before taking a supposedly biblical course with Jehovah's Witnesses, but the video would be endless. I encourage you to check out the videos on my channel so you can delve deeper into the topics that interest you. If you know someone who is thinking about taking a supposedly Bible-based course with Jehovah's Witnesses, or who is already doing so, please share this video with them. Everyone should have the right to make an informed decision after hearing different points of view. If you enjoyed the content, subscribe by clicking the button on the left. If you'd like to know why we call Jehovah's Witnesses a coercive cult, click the link on the right. See you soon.